Maybe Blizzard is making Season 4 when it comes to raiding quite boring, and maybe even more boring when it comes to Mythic Plus without a shiny new fated affix. But at least they gave collectors and busybodies everywhere something to do in patch 10.2.6 as well as Season 4. So, if you want this unreasonably large good boy named Taiwan, you have to go through the meta achievement introduced in patch 10.2.6 called A World Awoken. Now, the entirety of this will give you a grand total of 9 different mounts, 9 different titles, a bunch of different pets, and cosmetic transmog effects. We're going to list where exactly are you getting these rewards from, the different mounts available from these achievements, as well as the level of grind, I guess effort and time consumption required for each and every one of these achievements and meta achievements for the A World Awoken. I guess we can call it the end of the expansion mega meta achievement for Dragonflight. Let's start by saying first of all, and I will leave down the links in the description, that to go through any/many of these achievements you will have a much easier time if you take the add-ons handy notes to keep track of all of the rares, the elites, the treasures, even down to explaining what to do, what you have to go for each and every one of the different rares and treasures, together with something like TomTom to help you, for example, with the coordinates and with tracking down the locations of each of every one of these things in the map. The thing that might bait you is that roughly 80% of these achievements and meta achievements are doable quite quickly, especially if you have played even a bit, even casually, throughout the expansion. You have 3 achievements just for doing LFR of all the 3 raids. No, you don't have to do them in mythic difficulty to get these achievements, even just LFR is more than enough. Same goes for the mythic 0 difficulty of all of these dungeons. That will also count for this meta achievement. Then you have 2 achievements that go hand in hand together, the Lore Master and the Pathfinder. Lore Master is the 4 main quests of the 4 Dragonflight zones, together with all of the side quests of all 4 zones. Meanwhile, Pathfinder is the 4 main quests, together with exploring the Emerald Dream, the Dragon Isles, the Zarlek Caverns, and then the main storyline of the Embers of Neltarion. Right off the bat, you have quite a few of them already completed. Dream On is the one from the Emerald Dream, another one that, if you have played Season 3, will be done reasonably quickly. You might have forgotten a few things here and there, like remembering to use a seed in every single location. Maybe you have 2 or 3 missing. It's something that is doable quite quickly. Up to now, we are basically halfway through the achievements, and we have gotten so far 0 rewards. No titles, no mounts, no transmog effects or anything of the sort. Another one that is pretty straightforward. It is more time consuming, but still, it's rather easy. It's now This is Dragon Racing, because it's quite literally just catch all of the glyphs for your Drake skills, which I'm assuming most people already did. Then you have the normal races throughout the 4 original zones of Dragonflight. Once more, you don't have to do them at gold. Doing them at bronze is more than enough. Same goes for the 3 new zones of Dragonflight. The Forbidden Reach, Emerald Dream, and Zarlek Caverns. They have an addition. It's not just the normal races, it's also the advanced ones and the reverse races. Once more, at bronze. Bronze is enough to get the progression for the achievement for now This is Dragon Racing. This is the first, I guess we can say, reward, because doing now This is Dragon Racing will give you the Grotto Netherwing Drake Black Scales, but you know, it's still quite minor as far as rewards go. Another one with low requirement of grinding, which I'm afraid is the last one, is Dragon Quests. This is basically lore, it's basically extra storylines in Dragonflight. You have the A Blue Dawn one, which is the one from Kalekgos, from the Blue Dragonflight. You have the In Tears Footsteps, which is the very early on prerequisite for your Spark of Ingenuity crafting item in Season 1. You have the Of the Tears Guard, which is the storyline centered in Tyrhold, in Taldrassus, the whole bunch of quests around here. That will give you actually the first reward, because Of the Tears Guard gives you the Of the Tears Guard title. Well, let's just remove this useless title and find Of the Tears Guard. There you go. That's the first of the actual rewards you can get in here. Then you also have active listening skills, which does give you the Reconciler title, which is done through a storyline that is enabled by one of the side quests you have completed for Lore Master. Sojourner of Teldrassus, completing the Misty Vale side quest will enable the beginning of the active listening skill storyline, and then a new beginning is the one in the Onaran Plains for the Old Hatreds storyline. Again, takes something like 20 minutes to complete. The one that is slightly gated is Fringe Benefits because it requires you to complete 8 daily quests in Aeon's Fringe, and Blizzard for some reason made them not backwards compatible, so even if you did any of these daily quests prior to 10.2.6, you actually have to go back and do 8 of these again. Aeon's Fringe, for anyone confused about never even having heard of this, is right here in Teldrassus. There is going to be the Everywhere Inn, where Chromie will be inside and offer you 1 daily quest every day for this achievement. That is, however, the last of the soft, quick and easy type of achievements you can get in here. So we have gotten all of these, plus this, and this, and this, and this. Now we have only these 4 left. Unfortunately, these 4 will make up for roughly 99% of the time that you will have to spend to get this meta achievement. The overarching one, so the one that you will progress as you go ahead with the others, is, oh my god, they were clutchmates. Now, the very simple explanation for this meta achievement right here is very simply get to max rep with every single faction in Dragonflight. Whether it is a default starting faction, so Dragonscale Expedition and Maruk Center at 25, Tuskar and Valdrakken Accord at 30, or the new expansion additions Loamniffen and Dream Wardens at 20, or the side factions, the smaller factions. Legend of the Multiverse Friendship rank with Soridormi, you have the max rep with Rathion and Sabellian in the Obsidian Throne, max rep with the Artisans Consortium in Valdrakken, rank 5 max rep with the Cobalt Assembly in the Azure Span, and lastly learn how to speak Furbolghese in the Azure Span. This will be by far the largest amount of time you will have to spend. Not necessarily the most frustrating or the most annoying, because a lot of this is soloable. It's just, sort of like background noise, autopilot type of grind. The one that will definitely take you the most, and also the one that will be the more annoying, will be a combination of joining the Kansguard together with Legend of the Multiverse. That's because while the other factions can be more or less grinded solo, doing the Maruk Centers and the Legend of the Multiverse one might be slightly faster or easier to do in a group. For example, Legend of the Multiverse, you have to do the weekly rift, the time rift in Teldrassus, together with the other fastest way being farming the Dawn of the Infinites dungeon. Not in Mythic Plus difficulty, the default difficulty version, to get you 300 rep per boss defeated. That's the fastest way to get this one to max level, which would be, I guess, easier if you have a dedicated group just wanting to spam the dungeon for a whole lot. Same goes for the other farm of the joining the Kansguard. This was relatively easy, although super boring, at the release of the expansion, right, if you do it very early on. However, now, of course, it's much harder because you want to do this in a group. You want to essentially make a raid group, farm, and then go ahead and farm the Grand Hunts over and over and over. Now, if we go to the groups right now and we look for a hunt, there's going to be a grand total of 2 Grand Hunts available with 3 and 4 people in. Not exactly the level of farm you want to have if you want to get to fast high renown with the Centaurs. So those 2 factions are definitely the more annoying one to get to max renown level now that the player base is not trying to, I guess, target farm them nearly as much as when they were fresh new content. We said it is an overarching achievement because, of course, as you progress this achievement right here, you will work towards the max rep renown with the Loamniffen, because Zaralek is the meta achievement for the Zaralek Caverns 10.2 1. So most of these achievements, for example, are quite self-explanatory, like collect a bunch of flightstones, do a bunch of cave exploration in Zarlek Caverns, unearth 200 fragments, coins in Zarlek Caverns, do the exploration, defeat a bunch of different rares, do the main storyline in the Zarlek Caverns, and finally the treasures in the Zarlek Caverns. So this is still rather straightforward, even if you haven't, pushed hard in this faction in one of your characters. You do the weekly event at the center of Zarlek Caverns. You go every week in there to do some of the weeklies, that especially the ones that give you rep, and eventually you will get to Renown 20 and you will get to, I guess, passively complete all of these ones. As long as you remember to keep track of the treasures, this will be done rather easily, even completely solo, with also one of the mounts being rewarded, the Caliscent Shellwing. The other one that you progress as you go is the Across the Isles achievement. This is definitely the more annoying one, because it has a series of achievements which are a bit more time consuming, require more players, group play rather than doing them solo. So this one can definitely be more annoying. It is an achievement generally spread in different zones. Wake Me Up is generally around the Waking Shores, Center of Attention is in the Onaran Plains, Army of the Fed is in the Azure Span, and then you have Flight Club and Closing Time, which are more spread throughout the different zones. There are some annoying achievements, like for example in Wake Me Up you have the treasures of the Waking Shores, which unfortunately have to be found by digging the disturbed dirt, which might or might not point you towards a treasure. It might take you 10, 20, 30 or even 50 different digs before you find the hints to any one of these treasures. Many of the other ones are more simple because, for example, if you haven't yet gotten to max renown with the centaurs, obviously many of these you will get naturally as you complete the grand hunts, provided you remember to keep track of these, like for example the Disgruntled Hunter. So as you do the hunts, you just have to remember to find the NPC in every one of the different hunts to progress this achievement. And plenty of others, like unlocking the different colors of your companion, or killing the bosses in the grand hunts, or remembering yourself to pet the different good boys spread across the Onaran Plains. So this is much simpler, it's doable solo, right? It's not nearly as frustrating as some of the other achievements. Like, for example, talking about being time-consuming, Legends of the Multiverse, the max rep with Soridormi. This is more annoying because many of these achievements around Soridormi, around the Time Rifts, has to do with this one being old content. So again, if you go in here and we look for something like Rift, we will find absolutely nothing available. Now, obviously, you can still go yourself every time it's up, every time the Time Rift is popping. I guess some players will pop by and help you with the Time Rift themselves, but it's definitely not nearly going to be as packed as when the patch actually launched and way more players were around this activity. Having to sift through, for example, having to collect the different pets from the Time Rift, the different weapons from the Time Rifts, defeating the different enemies in the Time Rifts. It will require you some daily farm of this activity, of this event, to be able to complete all of this achievement. Overall, the Oh My God, They Were Classmates is definitely the longest one, whereas Across the Isles is perhaps the more annoying to complete one by one. There is also then Into the Storm, which will be specifically about the storm events. You can pretty much ignore these three. You will get these three passively, completing a tier set, getting the Elemental Overload currency, and defeating different bosses because you are doing this. This is essentially complete 16 different rifts, 4 of each element in each of the zones. So complete the fire, the air, the earth, and the lightning storm events in all the different 4 zones of Dragonflight. That's the main one, and it's of course more frustrating because it's completely RNG. So you have to hope that the right type of storm event pops up in the right zones that you need the storm in. That's also something that might take you some time before you get to complete that achievement. This is where the majority of your rewards will be coming from, Across the Isles. Because the Across the Isles itself, plus every one of the achievement in Across the Isles, Wake Me Up, Center of Attention, Army of the Fed, Flight Club, Closing Time, and Into the Storm, are all going to give you a mount. So pretty much you have 7 of the 9 mounts coming just from this meta achievement right here. So all of this is pretty much nothing, no rewards, and then 7 mounts from across the isles. The last of the meta achievements though is something quite detached. I mentioned this one is the overarching meta achievement because it's just max rewards with everything. There is one meta achievement though that will be completely isolated from this and from this. That's because this is the meta achievement for the Forbidden Reach. So you have to go in the Forbidden Reach and do a bunch of stuff. Now, some of these things are quite handy to complete completely solo by yourself. So you can do, for example, the Zeskara Vaults by yourself for these 2 achievements. You can, of course, explore the Forbidden Reach and find the treasures in the Forbidden Reach by yourself. You can find the different books in the Forbidden Reach by yourself, together with opening small treasures around the zone by yourself. However, you have to defeat the end boss of the Primal Storm in all the 4 different elements, together with defeating every single one of the elite rares in the zone, together with opening 10 different forbidden hordes in the zone. That's where it gets annoying, because pretty much all of this content is basically group content. Even if this is an old tier zone, an old season zone, so you should be easier for you at, tip top max item level to do it, it's still gonna be quite hard, especially if you are something like a priest, for example. It will be very difficult to be soloing the end boss with 50 million HP by yourself, or multiple rares, or even the spoils event that you have to do solo. And that's where the problem goes, this one being an old event. You have to go here and look for something in the Forbidden Reach. We have a single treasure farm group with 16 people. What about the storm event, the Primal Storm event happening here? There is absolutely nothing. What about the spoils farming to open up the spoils for the event? There is nothing. So it's harder, of course, this one being an event from over a year ago, to find players right now still in the zone. It's definitely going to be more players than a week ago, because now we have the meta achievement, so at least now there is more reasons for you and for players to actually go in here. But that is perhaps what many of these meta achievements will find as more frustrating, to have to revisit old mechanics that have since been, to be revisiting old game mechanics that have since been abandoned, like in Across the Isles in Flight Club, where you have to do the achievements on Siege of Dragonbane Keep. Well, now you have to find players to do the Siege of Dragonbane Keep to be able to find the Jardin tablets in the place itself. Or perhaps something like to be able to push the early event, to be able to feed beef, the 20 beef snacks, etc, etc. It would be easier for you if, 20, 30 or even 40 people were actually taking part in the siege itself, rather than it being basically deserted. And that seems to be the recurring problem of the achievements you will have to be hunting, whether it is the elites in the Forbidden Reach, whether it is the Grand Hunts that you have to do solo, the Siege on Dragonbane Keep, even the Time Rift event, or even the Storm's Fury event right here. Some of the events would be easier in a group, but because these events are so old relative to the release of the expansion, it will be likely harder to find, enough players to do this consistently. Now, by the time you are done with this, these will be all of the rewards you will have collected by doing the meta achievement of World Awoken. Perhaps you're not even that interested in the good boy himself. Maybe you are targeting a specific thing in here, like for example, only one of the titles available from the meta achievement, or maybe only one of the mounts available from the meta achievement itself. It's worth reminding at the closure of the video that this is not for now a feat of strength, meaning you don't actually for now even have to rush completing this meta achievement before the end of Dragonflight and before the beginning of the War Within. So technically, for now, this is still doable in the next expansion. Unlike previous end of expansion meta achievements like the Shadowlands one, for example, which was a feat of strength and was unavailable by the beginning of Dragonflight, the meta achievement A World Awoken for Dragonflight will be, for now, still obtainable in the next expansion. So this is what we have for today on this Friday, the recap of the available rewards from the meta achievement for the end of the expansion. Now, We're starting, of course, as usual, our goodbyes by thanking all of our dear Patreon supporters, together with everyone who is, of course, supporting for free, like liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these pointless things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, well, it rained for a couple of days in a row, and today, this evening that I have to go out, it stopped raining. Thank you very much.